this lady doing? Trampling. Trampling horses. Trampling. Stop it. Stop it. Look. Oh my God. They just trampled this lady. They just trampled that lady. They just fully trampled that lady. They just fully trampled that lady. There's the lady. There's the lady that was trampled. Yeah, the lady got fully trampled with a horse.
What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
You just got crushed by a horse. Hey, what's up, everybody? Jazzbro Gonzo here. Another What's Next. Happy Tuesday. Apologies for not getting a video or two out on Monday. There were technical difficulties in recording, and of course, frustration set in. So I'm here. Just when you thought the shenanigans in this country couldn't go far enough, Canada still says, "Hold my lager." After Trudeau and his douchebags invoked the Emergencies Act, basically making Canadian protesters, these truckers, these evil, nasty truckers, dangerous, so dangerous to the point where they have to go after them. Kind of reminds you of something else. Canada goes off the deep end. You know, the so-called never go full retard. Well, Trudeau has gone beyond that. And that's saying a hell of a lot. Let's take a look. This comes out of PJ Media. Democracy dies in Canada. Trudeau government to make some of the new authoritarian measures permanent. How predictable was this? Thursday, an article was written comparing Trudeau's Emergencies Act to Adolf Hitler's Enabling Act that established his dictatorship, and pointed out while Hitler's act was supposed to be temporary, when it came up for renewal, his opponents had all been outlawed, imprisoned, and or killed. There was no one left to raise a dissenting voice. Trudeau's invocation of the Emergencies Act was supposed to be temporary as well, but on Friday, Canadian Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, and I did a video regarding this, announced that Trudeau's regime's intention to make some of the new authoritarian powers permanent. This, my friend, is how democracy dies. And I'm just going to skim and skim to this part here. Excuse me. Freeland did throw a bone to those who still hope that all this will pass and that Canada will go back to being a free republic. Yeah. She explained how some of these the regime's new authoritarian measures, even though they were working like a charm, would not be made permanent. Some of these other tools, like the sharing of information between law enforcement and financial services, and the requirement of financial services to be reviewing their accounts proactively, and the immunity from prosecution that we have provided to them in doing this. These are extraordinary measures that we absolutely believe are necessary in the current circumstances, that are having an impact. And let me also point out, having a peaceful impact. And the other aspect of the financial tools that I would be point to as being really effective and important is being clear that insurance on trucks that participate in these illegal occupations and blockades will be suspended. So we didn't have those tools. I don't believe that those tools should be part of the toolbox of a government in ordinary times, but these are necessary in these extraordinary circumstances. And they are having a very clear impact. End quote. How magnanimous. At least that is until extraordinary circumstances, that is Trudeau's opponents getting too influential, arise again. Now we go from that nonsense, shenanigans, to this. This comes out of Breitbart. Picks more arrests as Canadian cops sweep through Ottawa with clubs, stun grenades, and rifles. This is Canada. Yeah. The Canadian authorities have made dozens more arrests in the capital city of Ottawa as they move to crush the anti-vax mandate Freedom Convoy. Quote, we arrested 47 people. That brings the total to 170 said Steve Bell, the interim chief of police for Ottawa, in his latest press conference on the ongoing operation. Quote, as we continue to take back our streets, City of Ottawa crews and other municipal vehicles came into the area to clean up and tow away all demonstrators' possessions and vehicles. He bragged. Quote, when we deploy our officers this morning, you saw public order units on the ground sweeping across downtown core from east to west, moving demonstrators out of the parliamentary precinct. He went on, saying that the officers continue to face resistance while doing so, and that at one point a flare was ignited by a protester. In response, he confirmed, officers used a chemical irritant, also known as pepper spray, to disperse unlawful demonstrators who were resisting police orders. Yeah, like, I'm going for a cup of coffee. As you can see the photos there. Look at that. This is Canada, folks. Pictures from the Canadian Capitol show police in military-style garb and armed with rifles as they move against a Freedom Convoy, supporting other police and more traditional riot gear armed with batons and crude wooden clubs. Quote, this is tough work, said Interim Chief Bell, claiming that officers were doing what they've been trained to do and has demonstrated unparalleled discipline, restraint, and utmost professionalism. Yeah, we'll get to that professionalism in just a bit. I'm just going to stream and I'm going to show you this lovely video of police interacting with protesters.
We're being arrested.
Concentrate on the bottom of the screen, and you can see a lovely officer dropping knees like he was in the WWE against an innocent protester.
I have no interest in getting it.
Who, by the way, filmed himself getting out of the truck, putting his hands behind his head, and getting on his knees. Peaceful. And then getting Macho Man Randy Savage on him. Lovely. We go from that to this. This comes also out of Breitbart. Tyranny. Canadian Parliament votes for Emergency Act motion. The Canadian Parliament voted Monday night to approve Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's motion to invoke the Emergencies Act by a vote of 185 to 151 against. Think about that. Because what he was doing now wasn't enough. So he had to go the nth degree, and stick the landing and say, hey, well, you know what? Let's invoke this permanently. The passing of the measure in the House of Commons is a first step towards confirming the use of the act, which allows the government significant powers. Yes, martial law powers under a little douchebag, Justin Trudeau. But tough security measures remain in the name of community healing. Yes, unity. Sounds vaguely familiar. The Emergencies Act was invoked for the first time in Canadian history to halt the Freedom Convoy protests across the country, which included blockades of borders crossings in Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, although all the border blockades ended before the Emergencies Act was formally invoked last week. Instead, the act was largely used to clear protests in Canada's capital, Ottawa, over the weekend, and was used to freeze the bank accounts of those linked to the protest. It was also used to force tow truck companies to remove trucks in Ottawa occupying the area around the Parliament buildings after the government had trouble hiring tow trucks previously, as many allegedly refused. Oh, there was no allegedly. They did. Earlier in the day, on Monday, Prime Minister Trudeau defended his continued use of the Emergencies Act. Sieg Heil, despite all the fact that all the protests had been cleared out or ended prior to the invocation. Think about that. The police came in, swept through, did what they were supposed to, did what they were forced to do. And then Trudeau dropped the bomb regarding the Emergencies Act. Nice. And the state of emergency is not over. There continue to be real concerns about the coming days, Trudeau said. People are out indicating that they are ready to blockade, to continue their illegal occupations, to disrupt Canadian lives. We feel that this measure needs to remain in place. Yes, I need to be in charge of it all. Kneel before Zod. Wow. It prevented Invoking the Emergencies Act has been necessary. Law enforcement agencies rely on it to set up secure areas in downtown Ottawa and avoiding crossings. It prevented foreign money from continuing to fund illegal blockades. It's making sure our borders remain open. It has been the responsible thing to do. My thoughts. This video went on a little longer than I wanted it to be, but I wanted to get everything out in its context. This is unprecedented. Unprecedented. Not just in Canadian history, but in Western history. Western history is known for its civil rights. The United States is the standard bearer. We are here. All other countries look up to us. But as we've seen over the last year and a half under President Dementia, we're getting laughed at, especially by Putin. But everything that's been going on in Canada, Justin Trudeau has had no resistance. You would think that a country like ours, which is freedom and liberty led, protected by its constitution, you would have some on the left, on the Democrat side, step up and say, yeah, we do some stupid shit, but you guys are fighting over the top. No, not one. Dementia Boy has kept quiet. They stuffed him in the basement. All he talks about, Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Borders, borders, borders. But then again, we know how much he respects borders. Take a look at the South. But this is insane. This is absolutely fucking insane. There's going to be a civil war. There's going to be a civil war in Canada. All hell's going to break loose. And I'm telling you right now, this is going to be ugly. Because the shit that's happening now in Canada is coming to this country. If we as Americans don't stand up to it. We stood up to the vax mandates. We stood up to the max mandates. Parents came out by the truckloads all last year, dropping bombs on these school meetings in regards to teach my children, don't indoctrinate them. We need that again. You got to have people around this country stand up for Canadians, stand up for civil liberties and human rights. Now we're talking about human right violations. We're not just talking about civil rights violations. We're talking about human rights violations. Peaceful protests, and you got cops coming down like stormtroopers, jackbooted thugs on innocent civilians. And it needs to stop. And with that being said, I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more things just like this? Want to see more just like this? Excuse me. Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Took the unprecedented step of invoking the Emergencies Act, introducing new powers to crack down on the protests. Critics say the move was unnecessary, that the new measures go too far. The Minister of Emergency Preparedness, Bill Blair, is here this morning to discuss all of that. Nice to see you, Minister.
Good morning, Rosemary.
So as a former police officer and the Minister of Emergency Preparedness, how have you viewed what's unfolded in the nation's capital this weekend?
Actually, I've watched with admiration. I think the police clearly had a well-developed plan. They approached their responsibilities in a measured and proportionate way, and they've been effective.
We're being arrested. Man being kneed there. It's terrible. I have no interest in getting